number 1, English language is number 2, French number 3, and Spanish number 4. So when you understand the Slovak language, you can use number 1, English 2, French 3, Spanish 4. And for Russia, I will be interpreter. Our dear guests, a lot of my friends will come in Bratislava, will come in the international seminar about the peer review. V tejto chvíli, dámy a páni, dovolte, aby som privítal aj
allow me to welcome the president of the Slovak Audit Office of Slovakia, Mr. Karol Mitrík.
Sme veľmi radi, že ste prijali naše pozvanie a budete aktívne účastní na
and we look forward to your
seminári.
participation in this international seminar.
Pripravili sme pre vás
We prepared for you three domains, two for today, one for tomorrow. And before we start, allow me to hand over to Slovak SAO president, who in the past worked as a deputy at the local government. He was a mayor of a city, and he was in the political life. He was a National Council of Slovakia deputy, and at the same time he worked as an advisor to the Prime Minister of Slovakia. Before he was appointed by the parliament as the SAO president, he also worked as a director of Secret Service. Karol, it's over to you. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, first of all, I'd like to wish you all good morning. For the organizers, it's always an honor, as well as a joy, when an event is attended by such a large group, and hence I'd like to thank you for accepting our invitation. And also your presence here confirms and reinforces the fact that the topic is very interesting and inspiring and very important for our work in our respective SAIs. Peer review is an audit of operations, usually by an expert active in the same area. Professionally, peer review should improve the objectives and quality of audit operations and activities. Peer review, when I looked it up, I came up with an interesting definition. Peer review means an audit by a peer, by an equal, which means it verifies adherence and compliance with standards and provides certification. No institution, company or society or government cannot operate and function successfully without audit, and neither the supreme audit institutions cannot work effectively and reliably without an internal self-reflection and internal audit. The Slovak SAI has been involved in peer review process since 2012, officially since the Intosai in 2013 in Beijing, when it was appointed to the head of subcommittee for peer review. The Slovak SAI built based on foundations of the German SAI, who led the subcommittee since 2006, and that laid for SAI 5600 guideline, peer review guideline at the Congress in South Africa in 2010. Our SAI submitted a revised SAI 5600 in Abu Dhabi in 2016, and which is available to the society and is available in all official Intosai languages on the isai.org website. Peer review is not a new phenomenon. Professional peer review process was recommended in the work of medical ethics written by Isaac ibn al-Ruhawi in the 9th century, who based its work on the knowledge of Galen and Hippocrates. Al-Ruhawi was probably from the city of Urfa in today's eastern Turkey. He said that the visiting doctor must, during each visit, prepare duplicit notes about the patient's condition, and if the patient was healed or, unfortunately, if he died, these notes were reviewed by other medical practitioners whether the treatment meets the healthcare standards. Also, today's auditors do the same thing, and they review the assessment and self-assessment. Intosai tools are used to improve processes with the ultimate goal of responsible management and use of public finances. We don't wait until the patient dies, but through our activities we want to assist in improving standards as well as applying standards and exchanging our know-how. SAIs must have sufficient resources, and our conference is about this: how to build the capacities and what tools to use and under what conditions. We will spend a lot of time on experience, know-how exchange, which is shown also by the agenda, and one of the roundtable discussions that may be attended by all attending guests. We will have a number of individual presentations as well. I hope that the presentations and discussions and panel discussions and the roundtable discussions will be of interest and use for your future work. Number of participants indicates that the peer review topic is of great interest to all of us. We have representatives of 44 Intosai countries and other 3 organizations cooperating with Intosai. There is more than 90 attendants here in this room. We have 14 top representatives or their representatives from individual SAIs. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome the Chief Auditor from India, Mr. Rajiv Mehrishi. Then I'd like to welcome the Chief Auditor from Bhutan, Mr. Chering Kezanga. The Head Auditor from Malta, Mr. Charles Deguara. And the Head of Audit Office from Palestine, Mr. Eyad Tayammam. Then the SAI from Sudan, SAI President, Mr. El Tahir Malik. And last but not least, the European Court of Auditor member, Mr. Ladislav Balko, Slovak representative. Ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that the work of our office in preparing this preparation will meet your approval and as well to meet your expectations that you brought with you to this beautiful city on the Blue Danube. I wish you all a quality professional as well as social experience, and therefore this seminar is opened. Thank you, Mr. Mitrík, the Slovak SAO President. Ladies and gentlemen, before we attack the first topic, just short information about the proceedings of the seminar can be viewed, of course, not only in this room, but anywhere in the world. If there was anyone interested, it is streamed via the Slovak SAO website. And this is being streamed live online to anyone who is interested. So please smile all day because you will be on camera all day. Thank you. And now, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to officially open the first section of our agenda, which will be moderated by our Polish colleague Jacek Mazur, who, looking at his CV, can boast not only the fact that since 1991 he's been the advisor to the current and previous Polish SAI, previous presidents. He directly participated in creating the Polish SAI in the transformed country. In addition to national experience, he also has a lot of experience in the international arena, which he shared with our friends from Albania, Turkey, and other countries around the world. Today, his expertise is used also by the European University Institute in Florence, where he works as an external auditor. So there is no better candidate to be selected as the main speaker and MC, and I'd like to hand over to him, who will take us through to the lunchtime, the panel, the section number 1.
Very warm. Thank you, Lubo. Honorable President Mitrík, honorable presidents, dear colleagues, it happens that the chairman speaks for a very long time, which means that the real speakers have little time left. I promise not to continue this tradition. The session is about SAIs leading by example. Taking into account that our peer reviews are a relatively new phenomenon and the practice in different countries vary, such exchange of experiences is a very reasonable approach. We move to our business. I have the pleasure to present you Mr. Rajiv Mehrishi, Controller and Auditor General of India. He assumed the office last year only. However, he has a huge experience in public administration. His immediate previous positions were Home Secretary and Finance Secretary in the government of India. Prior to that, he held other key positions, in the federal government and in the provincial government of Rajasthan. With his vast experience, Mr. Mehrishi possesses a perceptive insight into the governance process. So his experience is very important for us. May I add that he has been instrumental in promoting and implementing innovation practices in various government departments. Today, Mr. Mehrishi plays also important role within INTOSAI as a chair of several bodies, including the Knowledge Sharing and Knowledge Services Committee. Please, Honorable President Mehrishi, to be so kind presenting the opening address.
Your name as well as you pronounced mine. Mr. Karol, Mitrík, Chair of the Subcommittee on Peer Review and President of the Supreme Audit Office of Slovak Republic and our host for this conference. Mr. Kimi Makwetu, Chairman of the INTOSAI Capacity Building Committee and Auditor General of South Africa. Heads of SAIs, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is both a privilege and a pleasure to be here at Bratislava for this expert conference on motivating and equipping SAIs to carry out peer reviews. I thank Mr. Mitrík for inviting me to speak on the value and benefits of peer review. I also take this opportunity to congratulate the Supreme Audit Office of Slovak Republic, SAOSR, on its leadership of the subcommittee on peer review, which they have ably led since 2012. The organization of this conference is the testimony to the strong commitment that SAOSR has to the objectives and goals of this important, if capricious, subject. I also wish to record at the outset a deep appreciation of the warm hospitality extended by the SAOSR, as also for the excellent arrangements made for this conference. Other than auditing, peer reviews or its variants are now an established practice in many areas of governance where international standards apply. These are areas such as banking, insurance, and capital market supervision, anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism, transparency standards, corporate governance, accounting, etc. The International Monetary Fund prepares its reports on the observation of standards and codes, it's called ROSC, for 12 identified areas using the standards set by the international standards setters like the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision, International Association of Insurance Supervisors, International Organization of Security Commissioners, FATF, etc. While some of these assessments are carried out by the IMF-led missions, bodies like FATF and its regional bodies, the FSRBs, conduct mutual evaluations of their members through experts drawn from different countries. The international regime for peer reviews in these areas is a fairly mature stage as compared to our own community, the INTOSAI, the Community of Public Auditing, in which it is a relatively nascent concept, but which has been gaining increasing importance in the recent years, perhaps an indication that more and more of us are realizing the benefits of third-party objective view of us. Ladies and gentlemen, in the overall context, global context, we cannot overemphasize the relevance of peer reviews to our own realm of SAIs. The role and importance of peer reviews as one of the foremost capacity building tools was underlined in the INTOSAI Strategic Plan 2010 to 2016 and reiterated and stressed upon in the INTOSAI Strategic Plan 2017 to 2022. It is recognized as a cross-cutting priority 1, as also a goal 3, as a goal 3 activity, as we are all aware. However, in spite of this early start, INTOSAI peer review surveys showed that out of the 107 peer reviews undertaken or being planned as of August 1, 2017, only 27 had taken place in the first 10 years from 1999 to 2008. In the period 2009-17 and after the INTOSAI's adoption of peer review as a goal, the number of peer reviews had increased substantially to 80, especially in the period since 2012. That's the leadership of Mr. SEO Slovakia. They increased substantially, and the highest number were conducted in 2014, 17 were conducted in that year, followed by 16 in 2012 and 10 in 2015, indicating their growing acceptance as a tool for improvement. The survey also showed that peer reviews were predominantly from Eurosai region, which clearly indicates the challenge and opportunity for further work in promoting peer reviews in other regions of INTOSAI. I would like to commend the work done by the Capacity Building Committee and its subcommittee on peer review in promoting peer review as seen in the recent increased number of peer reviews as a best practice for quality assurance and assessment tool for SAIs. A seminal work in this context has been the development in October 2016 of the SAI Performance Management Framework, SAI PMF. The framework was adopted at the 22nd INCOSAI held at Abu Dhabi in December 2016 as a comprehensive tool for evidence-based assessment of SAI performance and for identifying opportunities for improvement. The Abu Dhabi Congress also adopted ISAI 5600 peer review guide and its annex. The Abu Dhabi Declaration stated that INTOSAI actively encourages the use of the framework, which is applicable to all types of SAIs, regardless of organization model, mandate, national context, and development level. In fact, the SAI is a very comprehensive and structured framework for peer reviews and indeed for self-review. It provides for assessment against 25 indicators categorized under 6 domains relevant to the functioning of any SAI. We are all aware of the details, I presume, and they need not be gone into here, but I would like to underline that the indicators are intended to measure the performance of the SAI on a key area, in any key area on a numerical scale. There is no aggregate score for the entire SAI as whole, which is indeed a very good thing. The SAI PMF uses the international standards of supreme audit institutions as the main benchmark. It presupposes that the decision to go for peer review would be that of the head of the SAI himself or herself, that it is a voluntary assessment tool and that the product of the performance review is a property of the SAI which has been peer reviewed. A notable feature of SAI PMF is that it allows for different assessment approaches, that is, a self-assessment or a peer assessment by another SAI or INTOSAI body, or external assessment by consultants, donors, etc., or even a hybrid assessment combining any of these approaches. Another notable feature of SAI PMF is not intended to produce, that it is not intended to produce a list of recommendations. Instead, it provides a high-level overview of the SAI's performance and a detailed assessment of its strengths and weaknesses. James Barrie, the author who created Peter Pan, once said that we are all failures, at least the best of us are. In other words, if we really want to become the best, we need to know what our shortcomings are. As he also famously said, life is, or at least should be, a lifelong lesson in humility. In my own view, the SAI PMF not only provides an elegant and comprehensive framework for assessment of performance, but also provides the necessary flexibility to address some of the inhibitions that usually deter an SAI from getting a performance assessment. It provides a valuable tool which in turn can provide a robust framework for capacity development. Peer reviews can be valuable experience also for those who conduct the reviews. And they bring value that they bring, they have a special value that they bring to the reviewers because they are able to pick up from the reviewed entities their best practices and perhaps even pitfalls to avoid in their own case. In our own case, SAI India has been reviewed in 2012 on its performance audit function by a multinational team led by the Australian National Audit Office. The peer review focused on SAI India's quality management framework, but also compared SAI India's performance with internationally accepted practices. The recommendations were constructive and are helping us strengthen our performance in performance audit practices. SAI India itself has taken up 2 peer reviews of SAI Bangladesh and SAI Nepal at their request in 2014. The peer review of SAI Bangladesh was conducted using the SAI Performance Management Framework and covered financial audit, compliance audit, and the domains of communication, stakeholder management, and independence and legal framework. SAI India will shortly be leading a peer review of compliance audit functions of SAI Belize as part of the cooperative project between IDI and the Compliance Audit Subcommittee. As members are aware, the Indo-SAI Strategic Plan entrusts the Knowledge Sharing Committee, which India currently chairs, with the responsibility of working with Capacity Building Committee to facilitate knowledge sharing on cross-cutting lessons learned from the results of peer review and SAI PMF. We would keep coordinating and collaborating with the Capacity Building Committee and its subcommittee to provide such facilitation to our best capacities. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to note that the care with which the 3 themes of this conference have been chosen. These are: 1, SAIs leading by example through carrying out peer reviews; 2, peer review tools to improve the SAI performance; and 3, good practices in a peer review. The conference will thus cover sessions on important areas like peer reviews as tools for assessment and building SAI credibility, communication, and motivational aspects of peer reviews, capacity building through peer reviews, and the SAI performance management framework. The deliberations of the conference on these themes, as well as sharing of experience by both the reviewed and the reviewers, would provide important inputs for forging our strategies and future course of action. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the threshold of a major change in which each one of us has to take a leadership role. As the supreme auditing institution of our countries and jurisdictions. Therefore, I would like to recall a popular quote, almost a cliche, that we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. Nathaniel Brandon once said that the inner courtroom of my mind is the only judgment that counts, and therefore I would urge all of us to look at SAI PMF very carefully and judge for ourselves what our strengths and weaknesses are. We need to know heart of hearts where exactly we stand, even if we don't want to share that assessment with others. I conclude by wishing this conference full success in its endeavors over the next 2 days. I once again wish to thank, on behalf of all participants, the host, SAI Slovak, for the excellent arrangements and the hospitality shown towards us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, now it is my pleasure to present you Mr. Benjamin Nelson, Director of Audit Policy and Quality Assurance in the United States Government Accountability Office. He started his work at GAO in 1974. It means 44 years ago. Yes, sorry. His main fields of expertise are audit policy development, quality assurance, and peer review. And he said me, he likes challenging work and problem solving and meeting people. He prefers not to work in an environment resistant to change. So he's a fantastic candidate for good speaker. Thank you, please.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. I bring you greetings from our Controller General, Mr. Gene Dodaro. I am charged with convincing you of the importance of peer review to SAI credibility. And I am going to attempt, with my surgically repaired hand, to navigate the video system here. So, okay, I'm going to touch on 3 topics briefly. Peer review context, strategic and operational benefits of peer review, and touch briefly on the GAO peer review experience. As SAIs, we do better when our activities are connected to some broader strategic objective. Bringing transparency and accountability to governments across the globe is a critical agenda for SAIs. The agenda can only be achieved if SAIs establish and maintain their credibility. One of the pillars upon which credibility rests is a successful peer review. I had the pleasure as a young man to work with the father of peer review in the United States, Mr. Abraham Akresh. He said to me one day, peer review doesn't cost, it pays. And I'd like to use that as a framework for my remarks. Now, I am not sure that I totally agree with him, but I can say that I believe that it pays a lot more than it costs in terms of SAI credibility. Our credibility is our currency as SAIs. Can you go back? Okay. One of the things that we have accomplished, and I believe all SAIs can accomplish, is to establish credibility such that parliaments, and in our case, Congress, and citizens can have confidence in the work that you do. Confidence that the work is independent, that the work is objective, and the work is reliable. Peer review also provides the necessary transparency into SAI operations, shows that SAIs lead by example. In other words, we walk the talk. And it also increases our credibility with government ministries and departments. There are also, next please, operational benefits to peer review. I will not spend much time on this topic because I believe other speakers will cover this issue of the operational benefits of peer review, but I will provide a few examples. It is a tremendous source of pride within the SAI. Peer review serves to provide insights into recognized challenges, but it's good to have a third or an independent set of eyes examining things that you know you would like to address, but the peer review provides that kind of additional impetus to move forward on such items. It also allows for informal benchmarking of key practices. It improves your forms, your guidance, and your training as you prepare for peer review. It increases staff knowledge as everyone is getting prepared to answer questions regarding their work. And as I said earlier, it provides momentum for efforts that you have underway to address some of your operational challenges. Briefly, the GAO peer review experience. Next. A little bit of context about GAO. It's a very large audit organization. We have more than 3,000 staff. We have an extremely broad mandate, a mandate that continues to expand. We produce many different types of products, and we have more than 80 executives who can sign and release a GAO product. Next slide, please. This is the GAO operating environment. At any one time, we have approximately 700 engagements or audits underway, and those audits are being done at the request of different committees of our Congress. Unlike most SAIs, about 95% of our work is done at the request of a committee of our Congress, either a budget committee, an appropriations committee, or an oversight, or an authorization committee. That's the structure of our Congress. So at any one time at GAO, this is our operating environment. As you can see, there's a lot of traffic on that GAO highway. Next. Now, given that context, our goal is to convince two groups of the quality of our work: the Congress and the American people. And peer review serves an important role in convincing these two groups that they can rely upon our work. Next. The peer reviews have been designed to render an opinion on our quality assurance system, whether it is suitably designed and operating effectively. They've identified best practices at GAO, practices that other national audit offices may wish to adopt, and they've also made suggestions to enhance our practice. Next. Next. This is our peer review experience. As you can see, we had our first peer review in 1995. We started with our financial audit practice and moved to our performance audit practice, and now our peer reviews are joint. They cover both financial and performance, and we've moved from the model of using private sector firms to do the peer reviews to engaging SAIs to form teams to lead our peer reviews. Next. I'd like to just pause here and say that the peer reviews that we have undergone at GAO have served to enhance audit excellence. It has led to an environment where there is a strong commitment to quality and an understanding of the importance of quality, which in turn has led to increased credibility with the Congress and the American people. And that in turn has led to a broadening of our audit responsibilities. Our audit responsibilities continue to grow as the Congress gains increasing confidence in GAO's ability to perform objective, credible, reliable assessments of the government's performance. This increased responsibility cannot be attributed solely to peer review, but peer review has been a critical part of our strategy to enhance our credibility and convince the Congress and the American people that GAO is the premier source of information and analysis on the government's performance. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin, for your very concrete, very interesting presentation. You reduce the number of slides you have presented, but I understand that you are till tomorrow, so if we have any concrete questions, we can use coffee breaks, etc., and you will answer all our questions.
Sure.
Thank you. And now we will hear Mr. Einar Gørrissen, Director General of the Intersai Development Initiative. He is one of the most known people in the circle, so it is not necessary to present him too much. I only mention what we said me, that his ambition is to be involved in continuous learning and at least try to make a positive difference for those the IDI work with. Einar, good luck in implementing your plans. And now you will speak on peer review as SAI assessments tool. Einar, please.
Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for the opportunity to be here at this conference to speak about peer reviews as an important assessment tool for SAIs. It's a great honor for me to be invited and to share some insights from the IDI. I will, in this very brief and high-level presentation, try to connect the importance of performance assessments for SAIs and the methodology of peer reviews, which I think is particularly strong in terms of actually doing performance assessments. A lot of the points that I was going to cover have already been covered by the previous speakers, which will make my presentation slightly shorter. But I'll start by speaking a little bit about performance assessments and why it is so crucial. And I think the slide with the cartoon says it all. If we as SAIs do not know the challenges we are facing, we do not have the ability to actually design the means to overcome them. So to do an assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of an SAI, the challenges are, is crucial to all of us. SAIs do performance assessments for various reasons. And I think over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen a huge increase in the number of SAIs that actually on a regular basis do performance assessments, and that is a very good thing. We do it predominantly, mainly for identifying the strengths and weaknesses of our organizations, and then to design interventions to overcome them. We do so to try to identify the factors that actually determine the challenges we're facing, and to inform strategic planning and capacity building needs. We also do it as having baselines to actually judge our performance improvements as a crucial part of actually demonstrating the relevance and the progress we are making. And as was mentioned, we do so very much to act as model institutions. When I started working with SAIs, I was actually quite surprised by how many SAIs that actually audit others, but who are not actually able to look at themselves, look at their challenges, and to report on this. This is changing, and that is something I think we as a community can be very proud of. Many of you will also have heard me speaking a lot about the challenges we're facing when it comes to SAI independence. Around the world, SAIs are facing bigger and bigger challenges in many aspects of SAI independence. And again, I would stress the importance of assessing and reporting on performance here. If we are to have the credibility, if we are to be actually to show the benefits and value of the work we're doing, and to demonstrate also the challenges we're facing when it comes to independence in the public domain, that is crucial that we actually have that credibility and that we report on that. Moving on to peer reviews. The unique thing about Intosai is that we are a profession of public sector auditors. That is, there's no parallel in the world. Every country has an SAI, every country, and we all united in Intosai as this big peer network. We've been doing this for many, many years, and through this time, we built up trust, cooperation, partnerships, and we're working with all aspects of SAI performance. That gives us a unique opportunity to actually undertake peer reviews, and that's why I think also peer reviews has been so successful and so sought after within our community. As was mentioned, peer reviews gives insights and facilitates the exchanges of knowledges. As was also mentioned, it's not only those being peer reviewed that benefits, but also those that actually do the peer reviews. You learn the practices, you develop partnerships, and we've seen that the peer reviews has also involved in many institutional cooperations that have been ongoing even after the peer reviews have been completed. And as I said, it's very much in the spirit of what Intosai is all about. I'm not going to speak in detail about the SAI PMF. That will be done later in the conference. But many of you already have or are planning to undertake SAI PMF assessments, which is something that has really taken off within Intosai in the last few years. I will highlight just 4 things about the SAI PMF, which I think are worth underlining. Firstly, that it's very much a holistic overview of SAI performance. If you want an organization to work well, to add value, you need to make sure that all aspects of their organizational performance is of the desired quality. And it's based very much on the SAIs and good practices. The second point, which I think is particularly important, is that it's an evidence-based assessment. You have a clear criteria, a clear direction on how you're going to do it. You have the possibility of having a quality assurance function. So it's very much an evidence-based approach, which again I think can enhance the credibility and objectivity of the assessment. It helps identify the value and the benefits of SAIs. When you speak about the SAI PMF, many people often speak about the scores on the different domains, indicators, etc., etc. But what perhaps is more important than everything is a narrative report that actually puts the scores and the assessment into a national context and tries to bring out the benefits that the SAI is bringing to society. And as I've said, it facilitates measuring and monitoring and managing SAI performance over time. I would also say that a SAI PMF assessment is not an end in itself. It's part of a wider journey. Because with the SAI PMF results in place, that's when the reforms can start. That's when you can start actually dealing with the challenges you're facing, build capacity, and enhance performance. The map illustrates where we are in terms of the status for SAI PMF at this stage. We currently have 40 final reports, of which 10 has been published. We have 18 reports at the draft report stage, and 10 assessments in planning or fieldwork. You will see that there are geographical spreads. It's being used across the world, but particularly in Latin America and in the Pacific, it's really taken root. But we also see more and more countries actually planning to do assessments. I think only yesterday I had 3 or 4 SAIs speaking to me about their plans to do an assessment, which I was not aware of. So it's really getting momentum. As was mentioned by the Controller and Auditor General of India, it's very much a voluntary tool. All the assessment, decisions on assessment, how to do it, whether to publish it, etc., is to be done by the head of the SAI, and it's not designed to actually compare SAIs against each other. It's also a very close linkage to the peer review methodology. SAI 5600 actually mentions explicitly SAI-PMF, and SAI-PMF also refers to peer reviews in the guidelines. As I mentioned, there are multiple ways of doing SAI-PMF assessments, one of them being self-assessments, which is what most SAIs are doing at this stage. But you also see increasingly that SAIs are undertaking peer review assessments using the SAI-PMF. And some SAIs also use external assessments. And in many cases, you have hybrids, where you actually have a mixture of peers and people from your own SAI undertaking it. So I'm very excited about the SAI-PMF, the uptake within the InterSAI community. It's something that I think will continue, and I think it's very much a part of making ourselves better, more accountable, and forward-looking institutions. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Einar. It was both theoretical and practical. Thank you. Now we will hear Mr. Dragos Budulac, an experienced colleague from Curtea de Conturi, Supreme Audit Institution of Romania. His background is economy, and the main fields of his expertise are audit, economics, international relations, and European affairs. He will brief us on SAI's motivation to perform peer review. Dragos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jacek. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'm very honored to be here to present you something about motivation of SAIs to perform peer review. So I'll begin my presentation with some general comments on the concept of motivation, and want also to transpose this general concept into the SAI world to see what is really the motivation for a SAI to perform a peer review. And also I'll take this opportunity being into an InterSAI event to present some I'll present you very briefly some facts about the history of Romanian Code of Accounts, and also the concept, not the concept, but the way we developed our activity and the progress which was made. So first slide. So when I was asked to deliver this presentation, I was asking myself, do we really need a motivation? Is a motivation needed for an SAIs? Because if you are looking even here on this banner in front of you, we have a lot of advantages also for an SAIs to advocate for a peer review. There are also things which were said by my predecessors, and I see here our colleague from GAO, Mr. Nelson, which mentioned that credibility is our currency as an SAI. So I think that if we start from a general point of view, motivation is the reason for people's action, desires, and needs. And the need is something that is necessary for an organism to live a healthy life. So this is a general part of the motivation, and I I enjoyed very much the last part, which is underlined to live a healthy life. So so apparently all of us needs a motivation, not only an SAI. Every person needs a motivation to do something. So we have to have a reason for doing an action. So this general concept may be transposed and is transposed to the side level. So what I did, I tried to create a definition for the SAI motivation in doing peer reviews, and is mainly related to the necessity of assessing our activity on the one hand, in order, of course, to improve performance, to build credibility, and on the other side, we have to build our credibility. And it's like a coin with two sides. On one side, we have the necessity of assessing our activities, and on the other side of the coin, we have to build our credibility, to demonstrate to the society, to the stakeholders, to the parliament, that we are doing the right activity, that this activity is performed in compliance with international standards. And I took the underlined text, which is valid for a person to live a healthy life, and I transpose it at the level of the SAIs. So we have to see if the institution is really performing a sound activity, in other words, to see if the SAI is living a healthy life. And now I'll tell you some general facts about the Romanian Supreme Audit Institution. Afterwards, I'll try to point out which were the main results of the two peer reviews we have performed until now, and also I'll tell you some concrete aspects about our motivation to perform a new peer review in next year, so in the near future. So as you can see, the Romanian Court of Accounts was established long ago under the name the High Court of Accounts. It was established 54 years ago. So in 1864, it was established under the having as a source of inspiration the French and Belgian model, and at that time there was also included in our mandate the jurisdictional function. But this institution was dissolved in December 1948, and its duties were transferred to the Ministry of Finance. And our SAI, Romanian Court of Accounts, as Jacek mentioned in the introduction, Curtea de Conturi a României, was re-established in 1992 as we see ourselves as a continuator of the High Court of Accounts. And as a collegial body headed by a president, we have 18 members of the court, which form so-called a plenum of the court. So it's a collegial body. 3 years later, in 1995, Romania applied for EU membership, and in 1999, the European Commission, after the EU Council in Helsinki, started the negotiations with 5 Central and Eastern countries, including Romania. Already in 1999, the president of the Romanian Court of Accounts asked for a peer review, and we asked Sigma OECD, and I met here yesterday evening Mr. Jup Vrolik from Sigma, which should be here. So I think we very much appreciated this exercise that we started in 2000. But I also want to add that already in the period 2001-2007, we were engaged in 3 twinning projects with other EU SAIs. So there were 3 projects in a row. The first one started in 2001 and finished in 2003. It was with UK, NAO, and Greece. And the other 2 were led by the German SAIs and also the Spanish as a leader. There was also the Spanish SAI. And there were also some other short-term experts from other SAIs involved. So as I already mentioned, before EU accession, which happened on the 1st of January 2007, there were already two peer reviews performed, both with the support of Sigma OECD. But of course, the team of peers included experts from France, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, UK, and European Court of Auditors. So there were 2 very good exercises, very much appreciated at the level of the court, which help us to develop and to make a lot of progress in the court. So in 2006, there was the second peer review. It was started in 2005 and completed in 2006. It was a good, I would say, time frame between the first peer reviews. It was 5 years, which is quite a good time to assess your development and to see where you stand as a supreme audit institution. But after EU accession, as you can see, there was no other peer review yet. So but there was a self-assessment performing the peer review, which was based, in fact, on a report on the implementation of the recommendation from the peer review, which was done in 2012 in the court, because we wanted to see how the recommendations were implemented and what are the reasons for not implementing some recommendations if there was the case. We plan to have a peer review already in 2016, 2017, but it was postponed mainly because the mandate of the top management of the court come to an end in 2017. So there was so the original idea was to have a peer review before ending the mandate, but just to give you a global image of what has been done, what is the status of the institution at the point when you finish the mandate as a top management. But it was not possible, so we rescheduled for next year, but we hope maybe to start even late this year. So we have a preparatory process ongoing in the institution, and I'll tell you more details later in a few slides. Because now I want to just to briefly walk through the main points of the previous peer review. So the first peer review in 2000 had quite a generous scope. It was quite extended to the activity, so both the activity and the internal function of the organization, also the relationship with the institutional environment, including the impact of the work of the SAIs. And I said at that time, so the institution was established in 1992, but in 2000 was also a period when we were looking for develop our activities and to trying to align our activities with international standards for good practices. There were around 60 recommendations which came up after the peer review, and as you can see, the implementation rate was quite high. So 90%, only I think 5 recommendations are still not implemented, many because they were referring to some general issues like trying to restructuring our territorial units, which was quite difficult to be put it in place. But also as a good point for motivating us to perform another peer review, to consider this as a very useful instrument, was the fact that the recommendations really help us in our day-to-day activity, and also both the employees and the management recognize the benefit of the usefulness of the recommendations in place, and this creates an appetite for repeating the exercise 5 years later. So in 2005, we also asked for another peer review, which this time had a more limited scope of review, and it was focusing on the most important aspect of the SAI activity development, and they were looking mainly on at the management level, how the management is performing, and also the review was focused not only on the activities at the central level, but also at the regional and local level, because Romania is relatively a big country at the EU scale, and we have 42 local chamber of accounts, each one in each county. So one of the recommendations, which is not yet implemented since 2000, was that these 42 local chambers are a bit difficult to be managed, and the recommendation was to try to reduce the number of the local chambers, and just to give you an example, instead of 42, to have around 8. Because in the view of the reviewer, this might help to better management and coordination at the level of the regions, and but this was not possible because at least to our days, because this is the administrative chart of Romania, and it's difficult to so at least it was difficult to try to find a solution to reduce the number of the local chambers. However, the recommendation was also well received, but the implementation rate was not so high as previously. It was around 67%, because so an important number of recommendations was also related to the management of the court. So a recommendation to improve the management, and apparently these were more difficult to be implemented than the one related to the activity and so on. So we are still working on this, but as I mentioned earlier, in 2002, a report was made with, we made an internal assessment concerning the implementations, actions, and there were measures taken in order to improve the implementation rate of the recommendation. But still, there are discussion even at this point. Now, I bring you to our days. So we plan to have a new peer review. We had a discussion with the new top management, and the new president and the vice presidents are very much interested to have a peer review in place as soon as possible. We came here in Bratislava in January this year. We discussed with our colleagues about, because we are not so far here, so we had the chance to discuss with them a lot of very good and useful insights, if I may say so, concerning peer review. In general, we also discussed about logistics, about the budget related to such an event, about the steps which should be taken. And we went back in Romania. We had also internal talk with our management about the outputs of the meeting. And the motivation is clear there, because the new management is interested to see what is the level of, I mean, they are interested to see, to assess, to have assessed the activity by colleagues from sister SAIs. And we are now working on defining the scope of the review, because it puts, it is something which maybe is not, it was not mentioned in detail here, but this is a very important aspect of a peer review, define the scope of the peer review. Ideally, of course, everybody would like to have the whole activity under the review, but this is theoretically is possible, but it takes quite a lot of time, and it's very difficult to be performed. You need maybe quite a big team of reviewer, and you have to find so experts in all the things all fields you are interested in. And also, if you are a big SAIs, you said in USA you have 3,000. We have 1,600, which is also a substantial number of employees. So it's quite a big SAIs. The activity and the mandate is quite complex. So this is what I can call you the actual challenges for us to define in an optimal way the scope of the review, because on the one hand I said it's good to have as much a more comprehensive peer review, but it's difficult to achieve. So the other alternative is to try to focus on certain fields in which you are particularly interested, and this is apparently more easier to be achieved, and you don't need so much time to complete the activity. So we have also some informal discussions with several EU SAIs as potential peer reviewers. We also take into account the European Court of Auditors, and this is the status in which we are now in Romania. Of course, we discuss with the top management to see which might be some of the specific fields for a peer review, and we find out that communication might be one of these fields, internal communication and also external communication in Parliament, how to improve this, how to create a better framework. We are interested also in the conformity with the international standards as well, to see if our national standards in place are fully compliant with the international standards. And we are also interested in strategic field, and also close to the management level, so strategies and how to achieve the objectives included in the strategy. There's also another field is related to the human resources, developing human resources, how to motivate and to create a better framework for our staff. This was all from my part. I'm here with two other colleagues, with Florin Demian, which is the Secretary General of the Court, and with Corneliu Cornea, which is also, he was involved in this internal assessment we already had in 2005, and it was done using the PMF framework, and he can be contacted for more details on this particular issue. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dragos. Thank you very much. And now we have in the agenda a presentation by the State Audit Bureau of Kuwait. Oh, welcome. I'm sorry, you should present yourself because I didn't receive any precise information. So, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fahad Al-Bassam, and I'm a legal auditor at the State Audit Bureau of Kuwait. Actually, we don't have an actual experience in peer review with other SAIs. Nonetheless, we have made some serious steps toward peer review, and we hope that the next video will illustrate these steps. So,
SAB steps towards peer review. The State Audit Bureau of Kuwait, SAB, was established by Law No. 30 of 1964 and its amendments. Article 1 of this law states that SAB is an independent financial control body and is only attached to the National Assembly. According to the said law, this independency provides scope for carrying out peer review and cooperative control in partnership with fellow SAIs. Believing in the significance of peer review and acknowledgement of the progress and improvement it provides for SAI's performance and its role in raising the level of audit performance, SAB has made several strides toward peer review implementation. The most significant measures undertaken by SAB towards carrying out peer review at the local and regional levels are as follows. First, on the local level. Number 1. The last 3 strategic plans of SAB for the years 2006, 2011, and 2016 included 3 strategic goals related to peer review. The third strategic goal focused on developing means of communication and promoting exchange of knowledge and experience. Particularly, Item 3.1 refers to promoting and sharing knowledge and experience with counterparts, international organizations, and regional groups. Looking closely, Goal 3 included the following sub-goals. 3.1.1 Activating peer review and cooperative control system in partnership with the associates. 3.1.2 Preparing a plan for sharing experiences and learning best practices in cooperation with the fellow SAIs, local and international organizations. 3.1.3 Strengthening control cooperation with the international control organizations to develop the skills and capacities of SAB staff. Number 2. SAB has expressed its readiness to translate peer review guide. The Translation Division of Training and International Relations Department in SAB has translated ISAI number 5600 peer review guide into Arabic as a contribution to provide all members with an opportunity to learn and understand the guide. Number 3. On the 19th of December 2016, SAB organized a workshop about peer review. The workshop reviewed the experience of Netherlands Court of Audit in auditing the performance of Federal Board of Supreme Audit in the Republic of Iraq. Second, on the level of Gulf Cooperative Council countries. During the 6th Assembly for the Committee of GCC SAIs Under-Secretaries held in 2007 in Riyadh, SAB presented a proposal for peer review to achieve the objectives of its strategic plan for 2006. These objectives included encouraging mutual exchange among the SAIs of GCC countries for voluntary peer review on quality assurance standards and policies related to audit standards and their adherence. Accordingly, State Audit Bureau of Kuwait has coordinated with SAI of the Sultanate of Oman to conduct a peer review. Hence, the specifications of the task were defined and conveyed to SAI of Oman. On the 28th of May 2008, a meeting was held between Kuwait and Oman to discuss the mechanism for peer review exchange. The proposal was also discussed during the 7th meeting of SAI's presidents in Qatar in October 2008. During October 2009, the president of GCC SAIs decided at their 8th meeting held in the Sultanate of Oman that peer review should be carried out within the framework of agreement and bilateral understanding between the interested SAIs according to the conditions and visions of each SAI. However, the agreement has not been reached. Third, on the level of Arab SAI. SAB participated in the 52nd Arab SAI Executive Council meeting held in Morocco during the period from the 21st to the 23rd of March 2016. Then, the President of Arab SAI Executive Council, Mr. Adel Al-Sarawi, acting President of SAB, proposed cooperation between the Arab SAIs to enhance the application of peer review principles and contribute to finding solutions to the current problems facing Arab SAIs in adopting these methods in their plans and evaluating the achieved results. Accordingly, the Institutional Capacity Committee was assigned to study the mechanisms of conducting peer review by acquiring experiences of advanced SAIs in this field. It is scheduled to begin this step this year according to the timetable and the study of the task's execution mechanisms that were accredited at the 55th meeting of Arab SAI Executive Council. Fourth, on the level of ENTOSAI. Number 1. On the 8th of December 2016, SAB concluded a cooperation agreement with SAI of Mexico in Abu Dhabi, UAE. The agreement's action plan for the period from 2016 to 2020 was approved as well. In light of this agreement, a delegation from SAB participated in a training program titled Peer Review, held in Mexico from the 3rd to the 7th of July 2017. Number 2. At the invitation of the chair of INTOSAI Capacity Building Committee CBC, a delegation from SAB participated in the meetings of INTOSAI Main Committee from the 18th to the 20th of September 2017 in Washington, USA. The delegation also attended the Streamline meeting for Peer Review Subcommittee, where Mr. Emric Gale, Executive Director of International Relations Department in the Slovenian SAI, made a presentation included the questionnaire that was distributed to the participating countries, stating 15 questions that dealt with SAI willingness to attend this conference, where the State Audit Bureau of Kuwait has assured its willingness to participate in the conference, despite the absence of actual practices in this field. SAB Future Vision for Peer Review. One of the main objectives of SAB participation in this conference is to gain experiences and knowledge from the participating international organizations representing INTOSAI regions concerned with the developments in peer review. This is in line with SAB's strategic plan objectives. In addition, we consider working on enrollment in CBC subcommittee on peer review.
Well,
SAB steps towards peer review.
it's done. Well, thank you for watching the video. And I would like to end by saying that we at the State Audit Bureau of Kuwait believe that mutual experiences benefit everyone, and we are looking forward to join the CBC subcommittee on peer review. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleague. We have the coffee tea break soon, but before I give the floor to Mr. Lubomir Andrassy, Director General of the Slovak SAI. Lubo, floor is yours.
Jacek, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your brilliant activity in these first terms. And dámy a páni, v tejto chvíli chcem vyjadriť
Ladies and gentlemen, let me now express my deep conviction that in the first panel we inspired you to discussions that you can continue during the coffee break. At the same time, let me draw attention to the rear part of this meeting room, where you can see or find 9 posters. I'm sorry, there are 11 posters from 9 countries. So 9 participants of this seminar prepared posters on the topic of peer review. So during the coffee break, let me invite you to have a look at their works. And at this moment, thank you very much to Jacek for moderating. And before we start a coffee and tea break, let me ask the president of the Slovak SAI, Mr. Karol Mitrík, to provide all of you who presented in the first panel with a small present as an expression of gratitude for their presentations. I believe the thanks is not only on the part of the organizer, but also of all participants and listeners. So let me thank to all presenters in the first panel.